Hey guys, thanks so much for checking out my channel. I really appreciate it. Please click to subscribe. In this episode, digging into the latest on the Charlie Kirk assassination, new information from the FBI director about what they're looking into, mainly accomplices. Who could the accomplice be if there is an accomplice? It might not be who you're expecting. Also, those text messages between the suspect, Tyler Robinson, and his roommate slash romantic partner. A lot of people thought they were strange. I've got a former FBI agent digging into all of them. And then the surveillance video that was released from years earlier of the suspect, Tyler Robinson, when he was pulled over in a fender bender. What does that video actually tell us about him? I'm digging into all of it in this edition of Brian Entin Investigates. Hey guys, thanks again for checking out my channel. I've been digging in again to the latest in the Tyler Robinson case, the alleged Charlie Kirk assassin, and some of this new information that's been coming out. Coming up later in the episode, you're going to hear from Steve Moore, the former FBI agent who I've been interviewing about a lot of this. But I just want to give you the latest updates first before I get into that. And a lot of this is coming from a tweet from FBI Director Kash Patel. And this is what he wrote. He wrote, "As the director of the FBI, I am committed to ensuring the investigation into Charlie Kirk's assassination is thorough and exhaustive, pursuing every lead to its conclusion. The full weight of America's law enforcement agencies are actively following the evidence that has emerged, but our efforts extend beyond initial findings. We are examining every facet of this assassination." And this is the part that gets interesting. Sorry, it's thundering out here. "We are meticulously investigating theories and questions, including the location from where the shot was taken, the possibility of accomplices, the text message, confession, and related conversations, Discord chats, the angle of the shot and bullet impact, how the weapon was transported," and I'm going to get into what that could mean in a second. "Hand gestures observed as potential signals near Charlie at the time of his assassination, and visitors to the alleged shooter's residence in the hours and days leading up to September 10th, 2025. And again, he said hours leading up to September 10th, 2025. Who was visiting with him? What do they know? Going to get into that in a second. He writes, "Some details are known today, while others are still being pursued to ensure every possibility is considered. Our primary focus is to complete this investigation and deliver justice to protect the integrity of the investigation and subsequent prosecution. We cannot release every piece of information we have to the public right now. We will ensure every question is addressed at the appropriate moment." And then it says, "Regarding specific details, such as questions about the plane that allegedly turned off its transponder after departing from an airport near the assassination site, we can share updates when answers are confirmed. After interviews with the pilot and consultation with the FAA, we determined the transponder was not turned off. Incomplete flight data in rural areas caused the apparent gap." What he's talking about there is there was this theory, and I saw it on X. People were tracking this plane that was flying over the area where Charlie Kirk was assassinated, and it sort of disappeared from flight radar. But they're basically saying there's an explanation for that. "The entire FBI mourns the loss of Charlie Kirk. We will not rest until justice is served, and our investigation into this assassination will continue until every question is answered." So that's the latest from Kash Patel. And again, there are some hints, I think, what I would call hints in that statement of what they're really looking into. And that's what I'm going to get into with my former FBI agent friend in a second, who's done investigations like this. So that's coming up in a second. Also new, authorities said the gun used in the killing of Charlie Kirk may be a decades-old, untraceable rifle. They identified the gun. It's an older bolt-action rifle, a type originally manufactured in Germany for military during both world wars. And it actually predates laws that required firearms to carry serial numbers or other identifying marks. So is it possible that Robinson chose that firearm because it's harder to trace? Remember, and I'm going to get into this with Steve, but in those strange text messages between him and the roommate slash romantic partner, he said, "I'm worried what my old man would do if I didn't bring back Grandpa's rifle. I don't know if it has a serial number, but it wouldn't trace to me. I'm worried about prints. I had to leave it in a bush." But he said, "I don't know if it has a serial number." So is that the reason he chose that gun? Because he knew that it was untraceable? Also, There's newly released body camera footage that shows Tyler Robinson after a 2022 fender bender in Utah. He had on sunglasses and a hat similar to what he was wearing when he was on the run after allegedly gunning down Charlie Kirk. Again, this is from a fender bender. It's from years before, but it's still interesting to just see his mannerisms. Look at this.
Who's the driver? You the driver?
Yep.
Robinson. Can you tell me just really quick what happened?
I was coming this way and he was just passing through and he pulled out from here, or no, from there, I think.
Do you remember which lane you were in?
I was in one of those two lanes going this way. I think in the right, in the rightmost lane coming this way.
Okay.
And he would have been there going left. And as I was coming through, he turned in and I T-boned into the side.
Okay. Do you remember looking at the light?
Yeah, it just turned yellow as I was getting into the intersection.
Gotcha. Okay, are either one of you injured in any way, shape, or form? No, nothing hurts? Okay, do you have your registration and proof of insurance on your vehicle?
Robinson's mother then also shows up to the scene, is caught on the body camera video, has to bring the insurance information. You can see her here.
All right, buddy, here's your information back here. So this is a driver exchange form. This has all of his vehicle information and all your vehicle information, okay? The most important number on this piece of paper is this one right here, top left. This is your case number, incident number, all that stuff, okay? That's the number that the report will be filed under, all right? When you contact your insurance company, that's the number they're going to ask for right there, okay? So I am not issuing citations today. Mom, do you have any questions since you'll probably be taking care of this?
I will be taking care of this, and this is all new for me, but we'll figure it out.
All right. So basically, just call your insurance company, let them know he's involved in an accident. They'll ask for this number, okay? And then just kind of go from there. They'll help you out. They'll do whatever insurance companies do.
So obviously has nothing to do with the assassination, but still interesting nonetheless. I'm joined now by Steve Moore, former FBI agent. It's good to see you, Steve. Thank you for joining me again. This Kash Patel tweet really opened up a can of worms. There's a lot to it that he's putting out there, and I'm curious. I want to kind of go through a couple of the different elements that he mentions and see what you think. He says that they're investigating theories and questions, is the way that he put it. The first thing he says is the location where the shot was taken. What does that mean to you?
Well, let me just do it in more of a holistic way here. What it appears he's done is had somebody go to the case agent, the agent in charge of the investigation, and said, what are you looking at? Write it all down, because those are exactly the things that the FBI would be looking at.
So in terms of possibility, he said possibility of accomplice, and you and I have spoken about this before, but it's been a while since kind of early on. Where's your head at on that now? Do you still think that someone else may have known or may have even helped?
I'm having problems with the roommate's statements, or actually not the roommate's statements, but the things that the shooter or the alleged shooter texted to his roommate. I mean, listen to this. He says, I don't know if the gun has a serial number, but they won't trace it to me. I'm worried about prints. I had to leave it in a bush where I changed outfits. Well, that doesn't sound like something you would tell somebody who had no idea of what you were talking about. It sounds like you were talking to somebody who was elbow deep in whatever you were doing. He didn't have to explain what gun he's talking about. He didn't have to explain why he didn't want fingerprints on this gun. He refers to it as my grandfather's gun. Well, apparently he had already, discussed it. So, Brian, there's two things here. The FBI agents who are working this right now, and the Utah State Police, they know probably so much more than I do in this. But I'm going to tell you that if I looked at that text, you are going to have to go a long way to convince me as an FBI agent that that person isn't an accomplice.
Do you think that I go back, in some documents referred to as the roommate, but the governor is called him a romantic interest. I mean, do you think that person is going to be charged with something eventually?
If that person isn't charged, I would need to know right now what in the world they were thinking when they got a message saying, I hid the rifle in the bushes when I changed my clothes, and I'm afraid there are fingerprints on the rifle. I mean, the hell do you think he was talking about? I mean, you're going to have to, that's like convincing me the earth is flat. You're going to have to go a long way. I'm not going to tell you that I think it's impossible, but that bit of circumstantial evidence to me is extremely difficult to dance around. So yeah, I think there's a strong possibility that he will be indicted. But there are all these things that come in from all different directions. I had a guy confess to providing a weapon, knowing that a guy was going to commit a horrible crime with it. And I got a confession from him, but they didn't prosecute. They wouldn't prosecute that one. And it tore me in half. And I never got adequate answers, even in the FBI. But there, so I assume maybe he was an informant for another office. I don't know. But somewhere along the line, these things can get derailed. And right now, I think the burden is on the FBI to either indict or explain why those were not culpable statements.
Yeah, and the next thing I had listed that Patel wrote was text message confession, which you picked up on some of the things that I noticed, but even just in general, the whole exchange, something about it, a lot of people did just find strange. I mean, even it was just people thought that it was fake. I mean, even the formality between these two, you think if they're in this romantic relationship and they're both young people, it was, I don't know, there was something suspicious about it, I think. Do you think?
Yeah, well, I think the way they were talking is suspicious. I don't think you're talking, I mean, you're talking Southern Utah people, regardless of how spiffy they are and how you know, leaning into their generation. If, as you've seen in some of the like the police interviews that were done with him after a car accident, you have seen that this guy talks pretty straightforward. He is not a valley guy, you know, and so what he's doing is, I think, speaking pretty much the way he speaks.
Yeah. Right. Right. It may seem strange in the text, but you're right. And we'll get to this in a second, but that body camera video from a few years earlier, you know, I was even watching him thinking like he almost acted like a police officer. Just he was so like matter of fact about the things he was saying. Patel also said they're looking into how the weapon was transported. What do you think that means?
That means the agent probably has the same questions I have. How did he get it on the roof? How did nobody see it? How did that blanket get up there with him? You know, the logistical things. And, you know, we've spoken before where I've said being an FBI agent is A plus B equals C. And you're either solving for A or B or C. And if you can't figure out how the rifle got up there, or it's not obvious, then that's a serious question. I mean, you as an FBI agent may not know the truth, but you know where there's problems in proving the truth. And so if there is no visible, if there's no video of him going up on that roof with that rifle, if there's no easy way of getting that rifle on the roof, then you're going to have to assure yourself that he didn't leave it the day before, that he didn't have an accomplice who threw it up to him. These are things, I mean, when you've got a case like this, the entire world is watching, and you cannot in any way, shape, or form soft pedal this one.
Do you think the fact that he's saying how the weapon was transported in his list of theories and questions indicates that there's something that they have seen that is significant about that? Or do you think he's just listing out these things and they may be absolutely nothing?
I think he is listing out the things regardless of regardless of their importance or probability. He can say whether there's an accomplice and he'll think there's zero chance, or how he got it on the roof. We kind of know how he's got, you know what I'm saying? He's going down and listing all the things that they are working on. And he will have a brief in front of him and get daily briefs first thing in the morning on how the case is going. So he will have an idea of where the FBI is on each one of those subjects. But those are moving targets. And so what he's doing is just giving you a rundown of what they're doing. I wish they wouldn't do that kind of stuff, but, he apparently felt it was necessary in this case.
He also brought up hand gestures observed as potential signals. And I don't know if you've seen that video, Steve. It's the main one I've seen is that it looks like it's like a security guard behind Charlie making some hand motions. What do you make of those?
I'd have to have more information on that. Everything's going to look suspicious after somebody's shot. There's going to be so many things that are just, throw it on the wall, see if it sticks. And so those would be kind of, relatively simple to suss out. I mean, you go interview all those people, first of all, and, do a background investigation on them. And that's where the investigation takes so much time. You find that security guard. He says, I don't know what you're talking about. There was a bee, this kind of stuff. And you then can't say, oh, he said it was a bee. No, you have to investigate every single thing, right down to what he did the night before, where he was supposed to be stationed, everything like that. And so, yeah, I don't put a whole lot of stock in that because witnesses say a lot of things. But again, you have to wrestle it to the ground. You have to know what it is without doubt.
He also brought up visitors to the alleged shooter's residence in the hours, and I picked up on this that he said hours and days leading up to September 10th. He didn't just say days, but he said hours and days. So apparently there were visitors, right before he left or something. I mean, at least that's what it makes it sound like. What's significant there?
Well, that they existed. He didn't say whether there were visitors or whether he had people that he was communicating. He said investigating visitors. So to me, that indicates that he had people coming over. Well, somebody his age and his friend, they're going to have friends that come over. You have to separate the suspicious from the non-suspicious. But the other thing is when you get somebody so deep in these violent websites, in the violent part or the far radical fringes of the internet, it's not uncommon for people who have never spoken face to face to have meetings when it comes time for something to happen. And I would analogize it to somebody starting a romantic relationship online with somebody across the country. Eventually, that person's going to come to your house or you're going to meet them somewhere. In the same way, in the world of extreme violent radicals, when they get talking about this, there is a point at which they meet. And usually, though, I would, unless they are actively facilitating it, I wouldn't expect them to meet like the night before unless they stayed and helped.
With the significance of this case and just, a huge event that it was with Charlie Kirk being assassinated, and you saw what happened yesterday or on Sunday with his funeral, and the president was there and the vice president. I mean, do you think if there was an accomplice or someone even remotely involved by this point, and with all of the resources of the FBI and the government now investigating this, by this point, we would have already seen some kind of arrest or something?
No, No, not at all, because that's going to be the most delicate part of the investigation. And I wouldn't tell you, I wouldn't tell you, I wouldn't talk to the press as an FBI agent until I had an indictment and I had the cuffs on him. Then I would tell them how we did it rather than, hey, look what we might do. Because people who are potential or who are accomplices in crimes, if they find out they're looking for you or somebody like you or a person your age, they're going to go to ground. They're going to get out of town. They're going to make it hard on you. So unless it's a slam dunk, on an accomplice or an accessory before or after the fact, I don't think we would have heard about it yet.
Interesting. And then just one of my last things, this information has come out, and you mentioned this about the gun, that it was a decades old untraceable rifle. Apparently it predates laws that required serial numbers on firearms, which, especially when you think about that fact and you bring in what he wrote in those messages, I mean, do you think that that was part of his plan to use that specific gun?
Yeah. Yeah, I think because what he was hoping for is nobody would ever trace the gun. Therefore, there's no way they would go looking for this in the grandparents' house. Some older guy in near Provo, Utah. What you're going to find, I think, is that that he used it because he knew not just that it was untraceable, but that there would just be like, it's not going to be a rifle where you could easily look at the lands and grooves on the bullet. I've seen some people on the internet say, well, if you only have the bullet, you can't trace it to a weapon. Oh, yeah, you can. And so he wanted something where there was nothing in a database to trace it to. And so that was probably one of his better ideas, because there was no record of that. Mauser 98s have been around since the teens of last century. So there's tens of thousands of them. And I've seen Mausers and the Russian SKSs. These things are, when the militaries after World War I and World War II divested of their weapons, a lot of them came to the U.S. as cheap hunting rifles.
Were you, and this is kind of not so much a law enforcement question, but a lot of people were touched by Charlie Kirk's widow, Erica, at the funeral, saying, that she forgives. I mean, they're obviously very religious people, that she forgives the alleged shooter, and essentially saying, that she doesn't want the blood on her hands in terms of the death penalty. Like, it's up to the government, but she wasn't going to publicly advocate for that. Did that surprise you, or what do you make of that?
No, not knowing. Sorry, knowing what I know about Charlie and Erica Kirk, I'm not surprised she said that. I'm not. I am gratified she said that. I think that's it was extremely touching. It broke me. But if and I hate to jump off the nobility of that for a minute, and come back to the fact that as law enforcement, one of the hardest things to do is manage victims' families, and you're going to get a lot of people, like the parents of that tragic Idaho murder, murder, the Kohlberg thing, Kohlberger. They wanted this guy's scalp right now, and were not happy, I think, when the police did not seek the death penalty, or doesn't appear to be. And so I've had the same issues where we had to go to people and say, we're not going to seek the death penalty on the person who brutally murdered your relative. And that is tough. And it always, I mean, you find out a lot about a person's character and nobility when they say, I don't need vengeance. I just need justice in this case. And so it was moving for me. I was grateful to see that. And it just actually makes it easier for the police and the FBI.
Yeah, it's an interesting perspective you have on it. Well, appreciate your time, Steve. As always, thank you so
Thank
much.
you very much.
I appreciate Steve Moore for talking with me. I've sort of been checking in with him throughout the investigation. Thank you guys for following along. I just wanted to say at the end of this too, totally unrelated, obviously, but for those of you who have been following me for a while, you know probably about my dog Shelby, my golden retriever. I've had her in my videos before. I've talked to her about her a lot on X before I started even YouTubing, just when I was mainly doing X through all the stories that I've covered, because I've had her for 13 years and she is really my best friend. And I had to put her down a couple of days ago. And I just wanted to share that because many of you have known about Shelby for a while. People who have followed me for a really, really long time. And she was just really sick. You know, I had kept her going for a while. She had joint problems. She had, I mean, really bad joint problems. She had kidney problems. She started having seizures, which she was on medicine on. She had a lot of problems. And it just got to the point where I felt like I was just being selfish, sort of keeping her going. And so anybody who has a dog or a golden retriever, you know what that's, if you've lost one, you know what that's like. And yeah, I just kind of wanted to share that just because I'm not looking for sympathy or anything. I'm totally okay. But I don't know. For those of you who have dogs, I wanted to recognize Shelby because behind the scenes, like with all this crazy travel that I do and all the stress, she's sort of been my constant for 13 years. And she's always been there when I get home. And she's always just been sort of like my support blanket. And even like when I started out, 13 years ago, living in a little crummy apartment, I'd work double shifts reporting and she would be stuck home alone and not going to the bathroom inside. And just, she's always been such a trooper. So, yeah, this one goes out to Shelby and I'll see you guys later.